like you just have to have it. Hey, I left Steve alone.
And don't think I'm not grateful.
From baby actors who were briefly fired to adults behaving badly behind the scenes, Full House harbored secrets that would shock its wholesome image. Between name changes inspired by Elvis, inappropriate mannequin pranks, and a creator who deeply regretted leaving, America's favorite family sitcom had a hidden dark side that fans never saw on screen. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about Full House. Fact 1. John Stamos got the Olsen twins fired when they were 11 months old.
An idea. Instead of all those goofy little hats, your friends can wear little tiny sideburns. What do you say, little mama?
No, thank you, Big Daddy.
It's hard to imagine Full House without the adorable Michelle Tanner, but there was actually a brief period during the show's first season when Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen were completely fired from the production. John Stamos, who played Uncle Jesse, was the one responsible for getting them kicked off the set when they were just 11 months old. At the time, Stamos was frustrated because the baby twins would cry constantly during filming, which made it extremely difficult to get through scenes and complete takes. He went to the producers and directly told them to get rid of the kids, saying that working with the crying babies was simply too disruptive to the production schedule. The producers actually listened to him and dismissed the Olsen twins, bringing in a different set of twin babies to replace them as Michelle. These replacement babies had red hair and were meant to take over the role permanently. However, the new twins didn't work out at all, and the chemistry just wasn't there on screen. After trying to make it work with the replacement babies for a short period, the producers realized they had made a mistake and invited Mary Kate and Ashley back to the show. Years later, when talking about this incident, Stamos admitted that his complaint was 100% accurate and confirmed that it really was very difficult to get shots filmed with babies who were crying all the time. He acknowledged that he said to get rid of them, but he also joked about how the replacement kids were unattractive red-headed babies who clearly weren't going to cut it. In the end, the Olsen twins returned and became one of the biggest parts of Full House's success, turning into massive stars who would define an entire generation. Fact 2. Jesse's name changed 3 times for bizarre reasons.
Here. Steph, what are you doing here?
Just hanging around.
John Stamos's character on Full House went through not just 1, but 3 different name changes throughout the show's history, each one happening for a completely different and somewhat unusual reason. When the show was first being developed during the production phase, the character was originally supposed to be named Adam Cochran, but Stamos didn't like that first name at all and asked the producers to change it before the show even premiered. He wanted the character to be called Jesse instead, and this request was directly inspired by his love of Elvis Presley, who had a twin brother named Jesse that was stillborn at birth. So when the show debuted on ABC, the character was known as Jesse Cochran. However, the name changes didn't stop there, because Stamos made another request after the first season had already aired. He wanted his character's last name to be changed from Cochran to Katsopoulos so that it would better reflect his own proud Greek-American heritage, and the producers agreed to make this change starting in Season 2. The show explained away this sudden switch by saying that Jesse had been using Cochran as a stage name to sound more rock and roll. But there was actually a third name reveal that happened much later in the series during Season 5, when it was discovered that Jesse's real birth name wasn't even Jesse at all. In one episode, DJ called her grandmother and learned that Uncle Jesse was actually born with the name Hermes, which was the name of a Greek god, and also Jesse's great-grandfather. When Jesse was young and in kindergarten, other kids teased him so much about his unusual name that he begged his mother to officially change it to Jesse. And she did. Fact 3. The Olsen twins were credited as one person.
Daddy's really into spring cleaning, isn't he? Steph, it may be spring cleaning to you and me, but to Dad, it's Christmas.
For most of Full House's run, the show deliberately tried to hide the fact that Michelle Tanner was actually played by two different people, and they did this through a very creative approach to the opening credits. From Season 2 all the way through Season 7, the credits listed the twins under the combined name Mary Kate Ashley Olsen, which was formatted to look like a single person's name, with Mary Kate appearing as the first name and Ashley Olsen appearing as if it were a middle name and last name. The producers specifically wanted audiences to believe that Michelle was being played by just one incredibly talented child actor rather than a set of twins who were taking turns in the role. This decision was made because the production team didn't want viewers to know the behind-the-scenes reality of how they were managing child labor laws, which required using two babies who could alternate so that neither one had to work too many hours. The practice of using twins for a single role was actually quite common in Hollywood productions involving very young children, but Full House wanted to maintain the illusion that Michelle was one continuous character played by one person. It wasn't until the show's 8th and final season that both girls finally received separate individual credits that listed them as Mary Kate Olsen and Ashley Olsen as two distinct people. By that point in time, the twins had already built up such a massive reputation and fandom outside of the show through their movies and merchandise that it became much more profitable to advertise and market them as two separate entities, rather than continuing to hide the fact that they were twins. Fact 4. Bob Saget did inappropriate things with a Michelle stand-in doll.
Look, it was one little goodnight kiss. We haven't even talked about it since.
Why are you such a chicken?
I am not a chicken. This is a very delicate situation, and I'm just proceeding cautiously because it's awkward.
Bob Saget revealed some shocking behind-the-scenes behavior in his memoir titled Dirty Daddy, The Chronicles of a Family Man Turned Filthy Comedian, where he openly admitted to doing crude and inappropriate things with a rubber doll that was used as a stand-in for the character of Michelle during rehearsals. The production gave him a 4-foot-tall rubber doll to practice with during camera run-throughs when the Olsen twins weren't available on set, which was a normal part of the production process to help with blocking and technical preparation. However, instead of simply using the doll for its intended purpose, Saget decided to turn it into prop comedy for the adult crew members who were present on the soundstage. He described throwing the doll around and pretending to do inappropriate things with it because he thought it would make the crew laugh, and he justified this behavior by saying it helped him survive working on such a clean-cut family show. What made this situation much worse was that Saget didn't realize the television monitors were turned on in other parts of the studio lot, including the schoolroom where the child actors were studying and various dressing rooms and offices. This meant that the children, including the Olsen twins, potentially witnessed what he was doing with the doll that was supposed to represent Michelle on the monitors. Once someone from the production staff realized what was happening and that it was being broadcast to areas where children were present, they came down to the set and asked Saget to stop his behavior immediately. In his memoir, Saget called himself an idiot for not knowing the monitors were on and acknowledged that his actions were part of his general approach to comedy at the time. Fact 5. The creator's biggest life regret involves leaving Full House. Jeff Franklin, the creator of Full House, has openly stated that leaving the show after Season 5 was honestly the biggest regret of his entire life, and the impact of his departure could clearly be seen in the show's declining performance during its final years. In 1992, Franklin made the decision to leave Full House so he could create a new sitcom for ABC called Hangin' with Mr. Cooper, which starred comedian Mark Curry and ended up running for more than 100 episodes over several seasons. However, while his new show had a decent run, Full House suffered significantly without Franklin's creative guidance and leadership during its remaining 3 seasons. The show had been a consistent top 10 hit in the Nielsen ratings during Franklin's final year as showrunner, but by the time the series reached its 8th and final season, it had dropped all the way down to 25th place in the ratings. Franklin explained that after he left, the show constantly tinkered with the romantic and professional lives of the characters in ways that didn't resonate with audiences, and people didn't like what was happening with the storylines, which caused many viewers to abandon the show entirely. He said it was sad for him to watch this happen from a distance, knowing that he could have prevented it if he had stayed involved with the production. This deep regret over leaving Full House was actually one of the major motivating factors that drove Franklin to create the Netflix reboot called Fuller House many years later, as it gave him a chance to revisit the characters and bring them back in the way he had always envisioned, essentially giving himself a second opportunity to end the Tanner family story properly. Fact 6. Joey's Cut It Out was stolen from his comedy partner.
People love pastry. People love fish. Thus, I submit for your approval flounder tarts.
Approval denied.
One of the most iconic catchphrases from Full House didn't actually originate with Dave Collier or the show's writers, but was instead completely stolen from Collier's comedy partner from his days performing before he landed the role of Joey Gladstone. Collier has openly admitted that he lifted the famous Cut It Out catchphrase wholesale from his friend Mark Sandrowski, who he performed with as part of a comedy duo before Full House ever existed. When Sandrowski was doing his act and playing a suave character on stage, he would tell women in the audience, "You're in love with me, now cut it out," as part of his routine, and this line always got big laughs from the crowd. Collier saw how well the catchphrase worked and directly told his comedy partner that he was going to steal it and use it someday in his own career. Years later, when Collier got cast on Full House and was developing the character of Joey Gladstone, he remembered that catchphrase and decided to incorporate it into the show, where it became one of the most memorable and repeated lines of the entire series. The phrase was always accompanied by Joey's signature hand motions, which involved making scissor movements with his fingers, then pointing and finally giving a thumbs up behind his shoulder. And this combination of the verbal catchphrase and physical comedy became so associated with the character that fans still remember it decades later. In an interview with BuzzFeed back in 2014, Collier revealed the true origin story of where the catchphrase came from, and acknowledged that he had essentially borrowed it from Sandrowski without ever giving him official credit during the show's original run. Fact 7. Joey's mannequin always wore the same outfit. If you pay very close attention while watching the first season of Full House, you'll notice an incredibly elaborate and bizarre running gag that the production team maintained throughout every single episode that year, and it involves the mannequin that was kept in Joey Gladstone's room as part of his character's quirky personality and comedy props. Anytime the audience could see the mannequin during a scene in Joey's room, it was always wearing the exact same shirt that Joey himself was wearing in that particular scene, meaning that someone on the production crew had to constantly change the mannequin's outfit to match whatever Dave Collier was wearing for each different episode. This wasn't just a coincidence that happened once or twice, but rather a deliberate choice that was maintained consistently throughout the entire first season, which would have required a significant amount of effort and attention to detail from the wardrobe and set decoration departments. The fact that this visual gag was so subtle means that most viewers probably never even noticed it while watching the show during its original run, and even people who have watched Full House multiple times might have missed this detail completely, unless they were specifically looking for it. What makes this running gag even more strange is that the show never explained why Joey would be constantly dressing his mannequin in matching outfits, and the characters never acknowledged or commented on this behavior as part of the storyline. The gag only lasted for the first season and was quietly dropped in later years, leaving many fans to wonder why the production team put so much effort into such an obscure joke that barely anyone would notice. Fact 8. The male leads did Whippets Between Takes
Jess, you've been up all night. I think you just need to get some sleep.
No. I don't need any sleep. Maybe a little nap wouldn't hurt.
Bob Saget revealed another shocking piece of behind-the-scenes behavior in his memoir when he admitted that he, John Stamos, and Dave Coulier would actually get high on set by doing whippets, which is slang for inhaling nitrous oxide from aerosol containers to achieve a brief euphoric effect. The three adult male stars would engage in this activity during downtime while they were waiting for the Olsen twins to finish filming their scenes, and they used whipped cream cans that were stored backstage as props for various episodes. Saget described a specific instance where he, Dave, and John were waiting backstage and had been there for a while because the crew was still busy shooting scenes with Michelle and her friends, and he was getting impatient with how long the wait was taking. He recalled that he had the idea to use the whipped cream cans that were meant for a birthday cake scene involving Michelle, and Dave and John followed his lead as they inhaled the little bit of air that was still left in the cans. Saget wrote that they were in a hurry to do this before anyone noticed, which resulted in whipped cream starting to squirt everywhere and making a mess. He also mentioned that he wasn't even completely sure if they actually managed to get high from the cans because of how rushed the whole thing was and how much of the whipped cream ended up spraying around instead of being used properly for inhaling. The fact that this happened on the set of a family-friendly show that was supposed to represent wholesome values makes this revelation even more surprising to fans who grew up watching Full House. Fact 9. Only 3 actors appeared in all 193 episodes.
Stephanie moved out.
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did.
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did.
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did.
Why am I arguing with a 4-year-old?
I'm 4 3/4.
Despite Full House having a large ensemble cast with many beloved characters, only 3 actors actually appeared in every single one of the show's 193 episodes across all 8 seasons. And those 3 were John Stamos, Dave Coulier, and Jodie Sweetin. This is a surprising fact considering that most people would assume Bob Saget, who played the father Danny Tanner and was essentially the lead character of the show, would have been present in every episode as well. However, Saget actually missed being part of the complete set of episodes because he wasn't in the original pilot episode that was filmed before the series officially premiered. The producers had initially cast a different actor named John Posey to play the role of Danny Tanner in that first pilot episode, but after filming was completed, they decided that it just didn't feel right, and they weren't happy with how the character was coming across on screen. Bob Saget had actually been the first choice to play Danny Tanner all along, but he was contractually tied to a show called The Morning Program on CBS at the time, which prevented him from taking the role initially. Once Saget's schedule freed up and he became available, the producers immediately brought him in to replace Posey, and he went on to play Danny Tanner for the rest of the series' run. This means that while Saget appeared in 192 episodes, he technically missed 1, which disqualified him from being in the complete collection. The fact that Jodie Sweetin appeared in all episodes despite being a child actor who started on the show at just 5 years old is particularly impressive given the demanding production schedule. Fact 10. The Full House isn't actually in the Painted Ladies. One of the most common misconceptions about Full House is that the Tanner family home is located in the famous row of Victorian houses known as the Painted Ladies, which sit along Steiner Street across from Alamo Square Park in San Francisco. This confusion is completely understandable because the show's iconic opening credits feature scenes of the Tanner family having a picnic at Alamo Square Park with the Painted Ladies clearly visible in the background. And beginning in Season 4, this became a regular part of the opening sequence that millions of viewers saw every week. However, the actual house that was used to represent the Tanner family residence in exterior shots is located at 1709 Broderick Street, which is in the Lower Pacific Heights neighborhood and sits approximately 1 mile away from the Painted Ladies. The show never explicitly stated the exact address of where the Tanners lived, and in some episodes, characters would mention that they lived at 1822 Girard Street, which is a made-up address that doesn't actually exist in San Francisco. The clever editing in the opening credits, which showed the family at the park and then cut to a close-up of the red front door of the house on Broderick Street, created the impression that these locations were connected and led many fans to believe the family lived in one of those colorful Victorian homes on Postcard Row. The house at 1709 Broderick Street is a private residence that still exists today, and it has become a popular tourist destination for Full House fans who want to see the real location, even though the front door is no longer painted red like it was during the show's filming. Fact 11. Only one episode was filmed on location in San Francisco.
A D in Spanish?
¿Qué pasa?
Huh?
Despite the fact that Full House was set in San Francisco and the city was such an integral part of the show's identity and charm, only a single episode out of the entire series run was actually filmed on location in the city itself. That episode was called Comet's Excellent Adventure, and it aired during the show's 8th and final season, making it one of the last episodes that the production ever created. The storyline of this particular episode centered around the family's dog Comet, running away after Jesse unknowingly allowed Michelle to walk the dog by herself while he was dealing with his bandmates voting him out of Jesse and the Rippers, and the plot followed Michelle and eventually the rest of the Tanner family as they searched all around San Francisco trying to find their lost pet. This episode gave the production team a legitimate reason to take the cast and crew out of the Warner Brothers studios in Los Angeles and actually film scenes in various real locations throughout San Francisco, allowing viewers to see the characters interacting with genuine city landmarks and neighborhoods. Every other episode of Full House across all 8 seasons was filmed entirely on sound stages at the Warner Brothers lot in Los Angeles, where elaborate sets were built to recreate the interior of the Tanner house and other locations. The only other footage of San Francisco that appeared in the show was limited to the opening credit sequences, which featured the cast members playing around at various famous spots like the Golden Gate Bridge, Alamo Square Park, and Fisherman's Wharf. But these were just brief establishing shots rather than full scenes with dialogue and storylines. Fact 12. Candace Cameron created Oh My Lanta to avoid saying Oh My God.
You know, she wore those sunglasses all day in school, even in gym.
What's wrong with that?
We were swimming.
One of DJ Tanner's most recognizable catchphrases throughout Full House wasn't actually created by the show's writers or included in any of the scripts, but instead came directly from Candace Cameron herself as a creative solution to a personal conflict she was experiencing. Cameron, who has been open about her Christian faith throughout her life and career, didn't feel comfortable saying, "Oh my God," on the show because it conflicted with her religious beliefs about not using the Lord's name in vain. Rather than simply refusing to say lines that were written for her or asking the writers to change the scripts every time this issue came up, Cameron decided to come up with her own alternative phrase that would accomplish the same purpose of expressing surprise or excitement without violating her personal values. She created the phrase "Oh My Lanta" as a substitute, which referenced the brand name of an over-the-counter antacid medication, but sounded similar enough to the original expression that it worked perfectly in the context of the show. The catchphrase became so associated with DJ's character that it was used repeatedly throughout the series, particularly in scenes where DJ was reacting to cute boys or surprising situations, and it became one of the memorable elements that fans still remember and quote decades later. According to information from the Biography channel, Cameron has confirmed that she came up with this catchphrase entirely on her own without any input from the writers or producers, making it a unique example of a young actor creating an iconic piece of dialogue that became part of television history, based on her personal convictions and creative problem-solving abilities. Fact 13. The Olsen twins used red gummy bears as acting motivation.
What score
Oh, we're having a little contest to see who can burp the fastest.
I won. I'm still the burp champion. In your face.
Working with baby actors presents unique challenges for any television production, and the directors and crew of Full House had to get creative when it came to getting the performances they needed from Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, who were cast when they were only 9 months old. Because the twins were far too young to understand acting directions or respond to traditional coaching methods that would work with older child actors. The production team relied heavily on one specific trick to get the desired reactions and performances from the babies during filming. Red gummy bears became the primary tool that directors used constantly throughout the early seasons to motivate the Olsen twins to do whatever was needed for a particular scene, whether that was looking in a certain direction, smiling at the camera, or moving to a specific spot on the set. The crew would hold up red gummy bears to catch the baby's attention and guide their focus to where it needed to be for the shot, and they would use the candy as a reward system to encourage the twins to cooperate with what the directors wanted them to do. This technique was so effective and became such a regular part of the filming process that red gummy bears were kept on hand at all times during production, and they became an essential element of getting through scenes that involved Michelle Tanner as a baby or toddler. The fact that such a simple method worked so well demonstrates both the challenges of working with extremely young performers and the creative solutions that television productions have to develop in order to make everything work smoothly and stay on schedule while complying with child labor laws. Fact 14. A Vegas bonding trip created the Jessie-Joey dynamic.
Till the hot oil treatment reaches full scalp saturation. It says right here.
You look like a pan of Jiffy Pop.
During the first season of Full House, the producers noticed that the chemistry between the 3 male leads wasn't quite where it needed to be, and the dynamic between Bob Saget, John Stamos, and Dave Coulier felt somewhat awkward and forced on screen. In an attempt to fix this problem and help the actors develop a more natural rapport with each other, the production team came up with the idea of sending them on a bonding trip to Las Vegas during their hiatus between seasons. The plan was for all 3 men to spend time together away from the pressures of filming so they could get to know each other better as people and hopefully build the kind of genuine friendship that would translate into better on-screen chemistry. However, when the time came for the trip to actually happen, Bob Saget decided to stay home because he was married at the time and didn't want to leave his family, which meant that only John Stamos and Dave Coulier, who were both single at that point in their lives, ended up making the journey to Vegas together. The 2 actors spent the entire trip bonding with each other and developed such a strong friendship during that time that it became immediately noticeable to everyone involved with the show. The writers recognized how well Stamos and Coulier worked together and started intentionally pairing Jessie and Joey off in scenes as frequently as possible, creating the memorable friendship dynamic between those 2 characters that became one of the defining elements of the show. This real-life friendship that developed from that Vegas trip directly influenced the direction of the series and shaped how the characters interacted for the remaining 7 seasons. Fact 15. Little Richard accidentally hit Jodie Sweetin during his guest appearance.
Hold it. You got a C in Spanish and DJ got a D?
Hey, man, I saw La Bamba 5 times.
Full House featured numerous celebrity guest stars throughout its 8-season run, but one particular guest appearance resulted in an unexpected and somewhat painful moment that Jodie Sweetin has said she'll never forget for the rest of her life. The legendary rock and roll pioneer Little Richard appeared on the show during one of the episodes, and he was filming a scene where his character was sitting at a piano and playing music as part of the storyline. Jodie Sweetin, who played Stephanie Tanner, was standing right next to Little Richard during the scene, positioned close to the piano so she would be in the frame with him while the cameras were rolling. As they were filming the scene, Little Richard got really into the performance and decided to end his piano playing with a big dramatic finish that involved throwing his hands up in the air with a flourish, which is a classic move that many performers use to punctuate the end of a musical number. However, because Sweeten was standing so close to him at the time, Little Richard's hands accidentally made contact with her when he threw them up for the big finish, unintentionally striking her in the process. In an interview with the Huffington Post years later, Sweeten recalled the incident and described how she was standing next to him and they were doing the scene where he was playing the piano. And then he did this big finish with his hands, and it was just like boom, hitting her completely by accident. She made it clear that Little Richard had no intention of hurting her, and that it was simply an unfortunate result of her proximity to his theatrical performance style.